Hi, I'm Michael Zima. I'm an SEO expert and expat based in Mallorca, Spain. Today I'm going to be talking about remote work-life balance, and what does that mean inside of a remote organization. I'm speaking from experience because this is a big debate that's going on outside of our organization, inside of organization, and how do we evolve and maintain a culture. So the most important thing that you need to know about remote work, whether you're making the transition to full-time remote work or you're thinking about making that transition, is the most important thing about remote work is accountability. You have to think about it like this. Remote work is work, okay? You can't go to an office and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody, so all of that is going to transfer into digital. So having digital skills and understanding how digital works is very important. So with the younger generation, this isn't a massive problem. But with accountability, here's the number one problem. There's two kinds of accountability: what you're going to do and execute on that, and what you should be doing and executing on that. These two run in parallel, but one is internal and one is external, and you have to keep those bits of communication in mind. So with remote work, what's interesting is communication does not scale laterally, or it does not scale progressively. It scales exponentially, because the more relationships you're managing in a remote work environment, the more tasks, the more things you have to do, the more emails, the more things you have to proof, and that just is bonkers. You're going to lose your mind because you have to manage more and more and more and more and more. Because remote work, you have technology, it makes it go like this, but we're human beings and we work like this or we work like this as we're adapting. So you have to keep those things in mind. So if you have good accountability, make sure you're keeping your external stakeholders and clients happy, and make sure that you're self-starter so you can get your day-to-day operations going. Because remote work is not a perk. Working from home is not a perk. If you have no accountability and you're not a self-starter, this is really not for you. We often see 1,000 applications a week because people are looking for a job application and it has remote work in the title, and people are coming in because they want to have that incentive. They want to be able to work from home. So I just talked about how communication is going to scale exponentially with all the things that you have to do. Well, how do you manage this? Effectively, this is up to you. You're going to use different tools, you're going to use different procedures, and you're going to have to come up with a system. If you're working in a larger organization, you're going to have to come up with a more cohesive system, because as the communication starts to scale exponentially, so does the runaround internally to start servicing and growing the organization. So this communication piece is very important, because communication does not scale because people can't keep up with it. So you have your accountability, you have your tool set, communication is starting to scale. So now how do you balance all of this? Well, if you're a remote worker, you have a couple of different things. It really matters on how many obligations you have. You can get into the work at 6 a.m. and just put in your 8 hours if you want and get out. You can break up your days, or you can break it up into quarters. It's really up to you, because in a remote work environment, the clock is 24 hours. There's 24 time zones, and you can work at your own leisure and your own pace, as long as your external stakeholders are happy and you're being held accountable there, and your work is being executed upon, and the performance at work is happy, and your accountability in the organization is strong, then you have a pretty good work balance. So I just talked about how communication scales exponentially. You're going to hit what I call burnout. There is tons of burnout in a remote work environment, because you're being pulled on external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and it is just maddening, because how do you prioritize between the two? And eventually you do prioritize those 6 or 7 tasks, and then you just have a torrent of tasks that keep going below. So that is going to lead to a lot of burnout until you can build the systems to support you with your external and your internal stakeholders. So that's important. You have to look at your technology and the tools that you're using, or else you're going to hit the burnout. But guess what? even if you have all these tools, even if all of your clients are happy, even if everyone at work loves what you're doing, you're still going to burn out because you have to keep track of so many things at once. A lot of this is going to be in your head, and if you can't maintain the system and try to adequately process this and put it into a system that you can take your unorganized thoughts, make them organized, and apply them into your workplace, it's going to lead to burnout. And this is common. There's really no way to balance the burnout, but the way to balance the burnout, and this is how I balance burnout, is there's a couple things. One, I'm a new father, so I have my own criteria to consider, and I like to break up my day into 2, sometimes 3 parts, but I don't like breaking it up to 3 parts because it goes very late otherwise. So in the morning, I try to wake up really early, and I have my block there where I can do my work for about 3 or 4 hours undisturbed, quietly. But since I'm a new father, I transition to the lunch routine where for 1, 2, sometimes 3 hours, I take some time with my son. I can take him for a walk, I can help with lunch and be available there. And then finally, I go back into my next block, which is my afternoon block, where there's more people online, more people are asking questions, and I'm making myself available for communication because communication goes like this. And then finally, I can go late. And late is really the best part of the day for me because this is where I'm trying to wrap up my own projects, because after I'm doing all of my internal and external, I get to work on a few of the projects that I need to move the ball forward on, and that's my balance. If I'm taking 3 trimesters during the day, then I would have 2 shorter breaks during the day. So that's really up to you. But the thing about work-life balance is when you start auditing your time and you think about your time, you're saving 2 hours on your commute. But if you're working from home and your family's at home while you're working, you might as well be on the moon because it's work. You can't just, walk around and take constant 15-minute breaks. Nothing will get done because that just goes back to my original point of accountability. You need to have that accountability, self-starter attitude, and strong work ethic to drive yourself forward in a work-life balance, because there's nobody but yourself that's going to keep you motivated. There's nobody except maybe some of the people you worked with that will keep you motivated and support you, but it's really back to yourself. So that's the mentality. You have to work as almost a singular entity, at least just to conceive what you need to do, and then you have to figure out how you can apply yourself in the organization. Then you have to apply yourself externally. Then you have to find a new system to optimize one of the hurdles that you have, because you're constantly optimizing and you're going to burn out occasionally. And luckily, the better you get at managing your priorities, the better you get at managing your external and internal communication, the less likely you're going to burn out as frequently. And if you're not burning out in a work-life balance, such as remote work, I don't think you're putting in enough work, because it is really hard to thrive and grow. And what you're going to start to do is start auditing your time. And when you audit your time, you can start looking at, this is me working and this is me not working. And it feels like you're not doing any work at all, because 8, 9, 10 hours in a work day, that's going to bring you up to 9 o'clock because you have to run around, you have to do things, and you're always, you have a different sense of perspective in a remote culture. So just to summarize, you have to be accountable. You have to be a self-starter. You have to have good processes for communication. You have to have good processes for maintaining your tasks and making sure that you're accountable and you're executing on your work. So being a self-starter with a good toolkit is going to help. And finally, you're going to have to make it work for yourself, because that's the work-life balance. It's not a perk, but you get to make your own schedule, and you have to be prepared to really be overwhelmed, so then you can recover, relax quickly, and then you can start going in the next direction. So keep some of those things in mind. Well, thanks for watching. Let me know how your work-life balance is, and if you work remote, I'd love to hear your story and possibly talk about it in a next video. So in the meantime, try to subscribe somewhere here on YouTube, and I'll talk to you soon.